everyone. It's Brittany from ABC Today and Big Brothers Big Sisters, and we have Kirby from River Radio, and he's going to provide more insight about what he does, his job, and the ins and outs of everyday life for him. So, Kirby, I'm going to have you take it away.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time with Big Brothers and Big Sisters to be here. And I've done this a few times in the past. It's a little bit different this time with the Zoom meeting, and I'm glad we're still able to do this. So I know that Brittany's going to ask me some questions throughout this, but one of the things, about my job that I get to do is I played music all my life, and I wanted to get into a job with music. I had hoped that that would be something that would happen. So after many years of working jobs that were, excuse me, just kind of regular jobs, like everything from baling hay to, working, delivering pizza and things like that, I was able to get the job with the radio station here in Cape Girardeau. And one thing I didn't think about when I started with it was all of the public service that we are able to do here at the radio station. Some of the things that some of the organizations were able to help, like, St. Jude Hospital, the American Red Cross, the Missouri Department of Conservation. Some of the things that I care about, we're able to help by gathering listeners to help those organizations. So that became even more rewarding than just playing music for people to make them feel better, because I want people to feel good. And that was something that, just kind of came as an added plus or an added bonus with the job. And one thing I'll always tell people is, when you try things, sometimes you come out even better than you had hoped. So it's always good to try things. And one thing I've learned is people who fail the most are the people who succeed the most. So if you just keep trying, don't give up, you might find something that's very special for you in your life. And you never want to give up on finding those treasures. So that's kind of a start there. And Brittany, I know Ashley had told me you might ask a few other questions. I can go on and on and on about random things, but if you have any direct questions, I'd love to answer them.
I have a few. So my next question is just like, what training, education do you need to be on the radio, or if you're just interested in being in like broadcasting in general? And maybe what was your path, or what did you need to do to continue to be successful in your current role?
So I know a lot of people take mass communication or, journalism to try to gather, the skills you might need to be on the radio, the things you might learn in high school or, things you might learn in college. And a lot of people take multimedia type classes to learn about the digital aspect, and that's more important now than ever. I took a class at SEMO as a non-traditional student in the 90s when they first started offering classes on how to build websites, because I wanted to get my band on the internet. And before that, my band had moved to California, and we were living in San Francisco, and I saw people building websites, and that really interested me. So the multimedia part of it was very important to me. And while I was in California, a friend of mine got me the overnight shift at the Berkeley University station. Nobody wanted to work it. I wasn't even going to Berkeley University. So I was like, yeah, I'm glad to get on there. And the girl who went to the school said, I could get you in there, no problem. I know you like radio. Nobody wants to do the shift. So I worked my full day at a regular job and ride the subway under the bay from San Francisco over to Oakland. And I'd walk through gangland in Oakland to get to Berkeley carrying my, CDs and my jam box to record the show. And nothing was going to get in my way to stop this, So for 2 years, I trained myself how to be on the radio and talk. And one thing that I had from past experience was being in bands. I knew how to work microphones and mixing boards to be able to talk. So I kind of put that together with my skills of knowing about music and playing music and mixing boards. I like being in front of people in my bands. So all of those things together is kind of what got me where I'm at. When I came back from California, I felt like I was good enough to try to get the job at River Radio. It was Zimmer Radio Group at that time. And the station that I'm now the program director for was the station I listened to as a kid. It was Q99 at that time. We still play the same format, classic and new rock together, which is my favorite format. I'm very lucky to have that. So all of those things together is what got me where I'm at. Sometimes people can get into a job without a lot of skill.
Mhm.
And something that the Zimmer Radio Group kind of like went with back in the time I got hired in the 90s was hire for attitude and train for skill. If a person is willing to learn, equipment's going to be different everywhere you go, and you got to learn that. So if you can get in there and just give it everything, if you can find someone enough, to trust you to get in there around the expensive equipment, it might be a way to start. You may not have had any training, but you might have the want to do it, So even without training, it can be done.
I love that you mentioned it. You're actually the second professional in our community to say, if you have a positive attitude, and you come in here and show us that you're willing to do the job and the hard work, we'll teach you everything. So I love that you touched on that and you put that emphasis, and I hope our students are hearing that for the second time, and then hopefully even more throughout the entire future. So what would you say is the most challenging part about your job?
Probably the most challenging, and to me, the most interesting, is that every day is something different.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what you're going to face. Like last March when we got, the stay-at-home orders with COVID, I didn't expect that. So we've gone a whole year now with no concerts, and we have to adapt. And now it seems like, a lot of things are going to stay virtual. I'm sure of that, like concerts and sporting events and school. And, to keep people safe, that's very important. So you have to be able to just roll with the changes. That's kind of how that is. So to me, it's a good and challenging thing. And it's good to be challenged because it keeps your mind fresh. It keeps you wanting to overcome things. So that's kind of a vague answer.
Hey, that's okay. That's okay. I think, our students can interpret that because our students have been so resilient as well these last few months and this last year too, with all the constant changes. So I think they're kind of made for this at this point. Now, my next question for you is, if you had students coming to you asking you questions about what are you looking for with someone who's interested in going into radio and that broadcasting and the behind the scenes work. I know you said a positive attitude, but what else are you looking for in people who are interested in this career path?
Probably the biggest thing for me is a person with a positive attitude and is able to keep that going all the time. Everyone has, hardships they've got to deal with. But it's really good to, when you're around a group of people at work or even in school or on the street, keep a positive attitude and try to look to the good things. That's probably the biggest thing to look for, is someone who can go, hey, that was tough, but we're going to make it. We're going to make it. So someone who has that attitude and actually shows that they can do the work, because there's a lot of people who will say, yeah, I'd love to do this, and they have a dream of what this job is, and they come in and think it's going to be all rock and roll and all fun all the time. So if you can find someone, like when I first came to get the job here, I said, I don't even care if you pay me. I will take out the trash. I'll do anything to get in there. And they saw that, and that was part of why they hired me, for the attitude. And I really would have done it. And still, I help take out the trash if it's needed in the hallway or whatever. So someone who does that, that's a person, I can count on this person.
No, that's great. Now, what are other positions that maybe you work alongside of, like some of your colleagues? I know when we think about radio, we think about the people who are, talking directly into the microphones, but what are some of the other careers that students may be able to explore if they're interested in this profession?
So here, where we're at now, we've had 8 radio stations. We have 6 here now in this building that I'm at. And with the program directors for all of the stations, we have a news director, we have a sports program director, we have a country music program director, rock, classics. So there's different formats, and you can imagine that there's a lot of journalism that goes with the news position. Throughout the building, we have people who do things like schedule commercials. We have a sales team that goes out and believes in our radio group and sells commercial time to clients and works with charity organizations so that we can partner with them and help raise them up, because we want to raise them up. It raises us up too. And we make sure that we have quality products and quality charity organizations on, so the listeners expect that from us. So that's what the salespeople do. We have a sales manager, we have a general manager. I think at one time we might have had as many as 40 jobs here in the one building. And over time, as things become, more computer driven and virtual, we cut back on some people. But there are still jobs people need to do, that you have to have someone to press the button or make it all happen. So there are a lot of different positions. I mean, we even have a receptionist. I mean, we have all different types of things in the building. We have an engineer who fixes the computers when they break, or goes out and fixes a transmitter site when something's wrong there. And that would be a person who's very, high level and like Star Trek.
Oh, I love that inside look of kind of, what makes your shows happen and all the behind the scenes. So my next question for you is, if you had to give advice to a high school student or yourself when you were in high school, okay, and you know that life is full of twists and turns and sometimes you just don't know, what advice would you give these students who are, starting to explore either higher education, trades, or even if they just don't know at the moment?
Well, to put a good answer to that from me, I would say that you want to live the happiest life you possibly can. You want to have as much joy and inspiration in your life and your job. If you can have that in your job, I know a lot of people who don't expect that from their job, but it can be done. So, just trying to do those things, as I mentioned earlier, just keep trying to find that. Don't give up. Maybe you're 35 years old and you're still trying to get that job. Don't give it up, because when you find it, it's a treasure, and those things are rare to find. So I say keep pushing and don't give up on your joy. You could possibly have that at your job, because if your job is not enjoyable at all to you, you're kind of half giving up on your life, because I mean, you work a lot. A lot of people have to work a lot to pay their bills. You're going to spend a lot of time there, and it would be more joyful in your life if you actually enjoyed what you're doing. You feel like you have a purpose.
Absolutely. That's some great advice. My last question is when students are like, yes, I want to go do this, how can they get in contact with local radio stations? What do internships look like? I know you mentioned about you were just so excited to get a position where you are now, you're ready to do whatever. But for some students who are maybe working and just kind of still in that career exploration phase of their lives, what do you suggest for, that internship or just part-time employment opportunity?
So you can, definitely stop by any place that you're looking at and put in an application. A lot of places have online applications. You can sign up there. And, one thing about that is you don't give up. You just keep reminding those people, I'm here, I'm willing to do this. Go by there, talk to them and say, what are you looking for? Maybe sometimes you get into a job in a position that's not the one that you're looking for in that job opportunity, but maybe you can move up the ladder and get to the place you want to get to. So you always want to keep trying to remind anyone that you're applying with that, hey, I'm available, I will do anything. Maybe even like with the radio station, they go out and do live broadcasts. I would hang out at those broadcasts before I got hired and help those guys load equipment, talk to them. Just become a squeaky wheel, because that gets the grease, just let them know I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. Because one thing that, we find a lot is people are gung-ho until they find out there's a little work, and then they just disappear, or they call in sick every other day. You can't do that. You really can't. You have to just keep showing up, make the best effort to keep showing up there. And if it's an early part of the job, as they say, and it's a position wasn't the thing you were hired for, you can move up. You can, when spots open up, you can just try to keep applying for those and move up to where you want to be. For an internship, you can come in here and fill in an application here. There are other radio stations in our area that you can try out for, television or newspaper, and even virtual type jobs where people are working with computers. So for an internship at a radio station, you just keep talking to the people, keep putting in your application, keep checking with the top boss there. I would say that's probably my best advice on that. Just keep talking to them.
Absolutely. That's some great advice too. Now, Kirby, to finish off our interview, do you have any last minute thoughts about, your career in general, the journey, or any, lasting impressions that you would like to leave for our students?
Well, I guess I would like to add that I mentioned I did other jobs before I got to radio, and I'm glad I did. I worked some very hard jobs, I think I mentioned baling hay and things like that when I was young. I wanted to have my own money so that I could go, buy equipment for me to play guitar or a microphone to sing with when I was in my teens. So, it's good to have jobs that were hard, because then you appreciate, the job that is very rewarding to you and that you love to do more. So I guess you could look at yourself as lucky if you do have hard jobs in your life. When you finally get that thing that's rewarding, because not everyone gets that right away, or some people never get it in their whole life, it's like even more rewarding when you did those harder jobs. So another thing I'd add on to that is something I said earlier, is don't give up. You might be 50, 60, 70 years old. Don't give up on your joy. Keep trying to do what it is you want to do. Don't give up on that, because it keeps you happy and keeps you alive longer. You look forward to getting out of bed. And also, even as I said, it could be tough at the job that you're doing that you love, but sometimes that becomes rewarding. And that's kind of what you're shooting for with the job you're looking for. And another thing I'll add is I've been a night owl my whole life. Like even in kindergarten, I go to sleep at 4 a.m. And I've looked at scientific facts about that. And it's true that there are people who operate better in the nighttime or in the afternoon. So part of the joy in your life may be that you are a person who is more effective in the afternoon or the evening. Mm-hmm. So you don't give up on, if maybe you work a job for 10 years where you go to work at 8 a.m. and you've gone to sleep at 4 every day, and you get home, take a nap, and you're just all thrown off. You can get a job that fits your body clock. It can be done. That's something you don't want to give up on either, because working at the right time that your mind is effective helps everything. And I tell a lot of people that, because I know people who are just tortured because they have to get up at 8 in the morning. They're doing a job they like, but they could do that same thing in the afternoon. So that's something that I point out to people, because that's something I thought was very interesting about.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned
I've even read that normal people, I've even read that normal people in scientific studies, it's torture to get up at 6 or 7 in the morning, even for normal people, and go to school or go to work. That even for a normal body clock, that is torturous. So you can find something that works better with your body clock and feel relaxed and your mind is focused when you get to work. Another thing is take your vitamins and do planks and squats, so you feel good and you can move, and eat healthy.
That is great advice. I love how you mentioned about sometimes just look outside of 8 to 5. Work can be done at all hours of the day. And you mentioned this earlier in your interview about how we as humans have been adapting this entire past year due to COVID, and work is being done differently. I know I'm working from home, and so my work clock looks a little different, and I completely relate. I feel like I'm more productive in the afternoon all the way into the evening hours. So I think that's just very insightful for our students when they're thinking more about, okay, well, what do I want to do? Just really looking at their habits right now and saying, well, I can relate to that. Maybe I need to find something in this field, or just kind of expand and continue to look for those opportunities. Like you mentioned, taking that night shift at the University of Berkeley, like that's just something different, so that was really insightful. Kirby, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your advice, your leadership in our community, and just your energy that you bring. I know our students are really appreciative of that, and I hope that they are able to find this interview very beneficial. And do they do you want to provide where students could possibly reach out to you if they have any additional questions?
100%. You could, on our Facebook page, you could message us there, and I see all of the inbox messages. So it's just facebook.com/realrock993. You could message us there. I'd be glad to answer any questions. If you have something that's, a little deeper than a Facebook message, you can call our front desk and I'll get that message and call you back. Our number here is 335-8291. So it's 573-335-8291. That's our receptionist, Liz. She'll send your voicemail to my phone. I'll get the message. I'll give you a call back. Sometimes we're able to do tours here. So if you'd like to bring in a tour with a student, with a teacher and several students, we can possibly make small groups happen at this time.
That's really great. Thank you so much, Kirby, for spending your afternoon with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for your time. I'm really proud to help Big Brothers Big Sisters of Eastern Missouri, and I'm proud to help the students there. I went to school at Central and in Perryville when I was younger, so I'm glad to be able to give some advice, and I hope you guys will think about one of the key things is have joy in your life, and there are ways you can do it with your job and what you do off the clock. So that's probably the most important thing, and I really appreciate you inviting me today. Thank you so much for that.
Anytime. Thank you.